There's a pattern in history that has destroyed three global superpowers in the last 500 years. And right now, in 2025, the United States is following that exact same pattern, stage by stage, decision by decision, almost like we're reading from the same script that led to catastrophe every single time before. In 1590, Spain sat atop the planet like a colossus. They owned half the planet's gold and silver. Their armies crushed Europe. Their coins were accepted from Manila to Amsterdam. 80 years later, they were broke, a fated power that never climbed back. In 1914, Britain commanded the greatest empire mankind had ever seen. The sun literally never set on British soil. The pound was the undisputed king of currencies. 40 years later, the empire had vanished. The pound had crashed, and London answered to Washington. In 1991, the Soviet Union stood as the other colossus. Nuclear arsenals, global reach, satellites circling the Earth. 900 days later, it was gone. Not conquered, not invaded. It simply imploded from the inside. 3 empires, 3 peaks, 3 total collapses, each one following the exact same deadly sequence. And here's the part that should freeze your blood. America has already passed 5 of the 7 fatal milestones. We're not heading toward the trap. We're already inside it. The fall of an empire never begins with tanks rolling across borders or fleets sinking in battle. It begins with quiet exhaustion. The moment an empire stretches further than its wallet, its factories, and its people can possibly sustain. Bases in 150 nations, wars burning cash on every horizon, promises written in blood that can never be cashed, debts that grow faster than the ability to service them. In the early years, nobody notices. The money still spends, the army still wins its battles. Politicians still make speeches full of forever. But underground, the concrete is already splitting. Capital gets wasted on prestige instead of power. Factories slow. The sharpest minds start packing their bags. Then, the speed picks up. Allies begin placing side bets. Rivals probe the edges. Trading partners quietly look for a plan B. The same currency that once opened every door starts losing its magic. And in one cruel twist, every strength that built the empire turns into a liability overnight. The dollars everyone once hoarded come rushing home looking for something to buy. The soldiers scattered across the planet become hostages to logistics. The guarantees once backed by unstoppable might ring hollow. This is not guesswork. This is exactly how Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union died. And it always began long before anyone admitted they were already bleeding out. When Columbus sailed home, Spain woke up as the planet's first true superpower. Aztec and Inca gold poured into Seville like rivers. By the mid-1500s, their galleons were hauling 200 tons of silver a year, then 400. Spanish silver became the one currency every merchant on Earth trusted. Kings and traders alike measured wealth in pieces of 8. And that's exactly when the fatal sequence kicked in. The moment a nation believes endless money equals endless power. Philip II sat on more wealth than any ruler before him, and he spent every ounce of it on dominion. Stage 1. Military overreach. Spain fought the Turks in the Mediterranean, France in Italy, rebels in the Netherlands, England's navy in the Channel, and still sent armies across the Pacific and into the jungles of America. By 1580, Spanish soldiers were bleeding on 4 continents at the same time. Half the treasury vanished into guns and ships. Stage 2. Currency sabotage. Taxes couldn't keep up, so the crown quietly shaved the coins. Pure silver became half copper, then mostly copper. The stamp on the coin stayed the same, but the metal inside turned to junk. Merchants demanded double the face value. Prices across Spain exploded. Stage 3. Endless borrowing and serial default. Italian bankers, German bankers, anyone with spare cash. Philip defaulted in 1557, again in 1560, again in 1575, again in 1596. 4 bankruptcies in one lifetime. Each time they swore reform, then borrowed even more. Stage 4. The death of making things. With oceans of silver, why bother growing wheat or weaving cloth? Nobles saw honest work as beneath them. Factories closed. Farms went fallow. All the treasure that arrived from Potosi and Zacatecas flowed straight out again to buy Dutch textiles, French wine, Italian silk. Spain turned into a giant middleman who produced nothing and depended on everyone. Stage 5. Rot from within. Streets of Madrid filled with beggars. Crime soared. Anyone with talent or ambition fled to London, Amsterdam, Paris, places that were building the future. Spain kept the priests, the soldiers, and the bureaucrats. No one left who actually created wealth. By 1640, Portugal broke away. By the 1650s, the Dutch provinces were gone forever. By 1900, the map still looked huge, but the empire was economically empty. The descendants of the conquistadors now sell postcards to tourists. That is what the end of a superpower actually looks like. At the dawn of the 20th century, Britain ruled the largest empire ever known to man. 1/4 of the planet's land and people flew the Union Jack. The pound sterling sat unchallenged as the world's money. Every trade deal, every bond, every central bank vault measured its reserves in British paper. London was the undisputed nerve center of global finance. And like every hegemon before it, Britain convinced itself the arrangement was eternal. Stage 1. Military overreach. British garrisons stood watch from Hong Kong to Halifax, Cape Town to Calcutta. When 1914 arrived, Britain could have sat out the European slaughter and emerged richer. Instead, it jumped in. The Great War devoured £40 billion, roughly $1 trillion in today's money. Most of it was borrowed from a new creditor across the Atlantic, the United States. By 1918, the workshop of the world had become the world's debtor. Stage 2. Currency sabotage. The war had bled Britain's gold dry. In 1925, London stubbornly returned to the gold standard at the old pre-war rate. The pound was artificially expensive. British steel and coal couldn't compete. Factories shuttered, unemployment soared, and sky-high interest rates were needed just to keep foreign money from fleeing. By 1931, the game was up. Britain abandoned gold. The pound plunged 25% in a single night. The world's reserve currency had just confessed it could no longer keep its word.
Stage 4. The empire dissolves. 1947. India, 2 centuries of wealth and prestige, walked away. Within 25 years, Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, all gone. By the 1970s, the British Empire survived only in museums and old atlases. Stage 5. The pound becomes ordinary. In 1940, £1 bought $4 By 1980, it barely bought 2, and today it struggles around 130. The currency that once ruled the seas now floats alongside the euro and the yen. Britain still clings to the trappings: a UN Security Council seat, nuclear submarines, a special relationship. But everyone understands. The age of dominance is over. The sun set, and it is not rising again. When World War II ended, the USSR emerged as the other titan of the planet, nuclear fire in its hands, half of Europe under its boot, rockets in orbit, and a creed that promised to bury the West. For 40 decades, it matched America tank for tank, missile for missile, proxy for proxy. On the surface, it looked unbreakable. Underneath, the economy was already rotting. Stage 1. Military overreach on steroids. 15 to 20% of the entire economy went to the Red Army, 3 times America's share. They had to mirror every carrier, every bomber, every alliance Washington built. Afghanistan bled them for a decade. Cuba, Vietnam, Angola, Ethiopia, Syria, every corner of the earth where America had a friend, Moscow bought an expensive enemy. Stage 2. Economic paralysis. Growth flatlined in the 1970s. Oil exports masked the corpse for a while, but nothing else functioned. Factories churned out goods nobody wanted. Collective farms on the richest black earth in the world still left empty shelves. By the mid-1980s, the Soviet Union, land of endless wheat fields, was importing grain from its capitalist enemies. Stage 3. A currency nobody believed in. The ruble was never freely convertible. Even Soviet citizens hoarded dollars under the mattress. To buy anything useful on the world market, Moscow paid in hard gold or barrels of oil because no foreign seller wanted truckloads of rubles. When oil prices crashed in the 1980s and the gold vaults started echoing, the money simply ran out. Stage 4. The empire walks away. 1989. Berlin Wall down. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, the Baltics, one after another they left, and the Red Army stood aside because the treasury was empty. The buffer states that gave Moscow strategic depth vanished in months. Stage 5. Total dissolution. December 26, 1991, the hammer and sickle flag came down for the last time. A country with 30,000 nuclear warheads, the largest land army on Earth, and a seat that terrified the world, simply ceased to exist. Not defeated in battle, not invaded. It died of bankruptcy and disbelief in under 3 years from the first crack to the final grave. 900 days was all it took. Here's the part that should chill you to the bone. Stage 1. Military overreach. More than 750 bases in 80 countries, boots on the ground in 150 nations. We've signed treaties to defend Europe, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, half the Middle East, and now the Arctic. $850 billion a year, more than the next 10 nations combined. And recruitment is collapsing, ships are rusting, and we openly admit that we cannot fight 2 major wars at once, just like Spain, just like Britain, just like the Soviets. Done. Stage 2. Currency sabotage. Since Nixon cut the dollar loose from gold in 1971, the monetary base has exploded 400% in a single generation. Since 2020, we've created more than 6 trillion new dollars out of thin air. The dollar has already lost 98% of its purchasing power since that gold window closed. We no longer dilute silver with copper, we dilute trust with keystrokes. Same crime, cleaner technology. Done. Stage 3. That death spiral. $36 trillion owed and climbing. Interest payments alone are racing toward $1 trillion a year, more than the entire defense budget. We now borrow money every single year just to pay interest on the money we already borrowed. Peacetime deficits of $2 trillion while the economy is supposedly strong. Spain defaulted 4 times. Britain begged. Moscow ran dry. We're doing it in real time. Done. Stage 4. The hollowing out. We invent, we brand, we finance, we consume, but we no longer build. Steel comes from Korea, chips from Taiwan, drugs from China and India, rare earths from Africa, clothes from Bangladesh. We run an $800 billion trade deficit every year. The dollars flood out, the goods flood in. And when the dollars stop being welcome, the goods stop coming. Spain had silver fleets. We have container ships. Same dependency. Done. Stage 5. Societal rot. Trust in every major institution is at historic lows. Cities drown in homelessness and open drug markets. 100,000 Americans die of overdose every year. Birth rates have fallen off a cliff. We cannot build a railroad, pass a budget, or agree on what a woman is. The talented are emigrating or simply tuning out. The streets fill with anger and tense while the elite argue about pronouns. Every dying empire looked exactly like this right before the lights went out. Done. We are not walking the path anymore. We're sprinting. And the cliff is now clearly visible, straight ahead.